Well, greetings, imagination connoisseurs. It is I, once the notorious RMB. No longer, I'm still the sanctimonious RMB until cooler heads will prevail. Welcome to this, a Friday evening Robservations live chat 104 with all of you, the members of the Post-Geek Singularity community. Thank you all for being here. I wonder, anything going on related to this community, perhaps? Anyone know anything about that? I don't know. I certainly do, and I think you do too. And there's a lot of people that do. And you know what? I'm just going to start out. As all of you know, this show is a constantly evolving animal, and I'm bringing in some ringers, some good commentators, people I've admired from social media and my Twitter feed, people I've come to like over their social media postings. We're gonna mix it up in this hizzle, and things are gonna be broadening. The horizons here are gonna be broadening. Just gonna try and make this show more interesting for you, bring in new voices, new points of view, because after all, we are a community that is all about talking, conversing, civil discourse, learning from all kinds of people. But until then, actually, it's never going to stop. What I have is letters. I got letters from all y'all, and I picked a few letters tonight that are pertinent to what's been going on with this community. And again, if you want to send me a letter, please, while I'd love you to subscribe to the Burnettwork here on YouTube, and which, by the way, I did my I've seen Endgame video, and literally in 24 hours, I got 1,800 new subscribers. So welcome to all of you people that have come here. Just so you know, this is a place where we share our positive fandom with one another. It's all about trying to share what we love, get enthusiastic about it, get, fired up, because I know I am. By the way, I've had a lot of trolls. I've had hit and run trolling on my DMs. People have just posted spoilers in my DMs, like such and such happens. Really? I mean, come on, man. Here's the thing. Like I've said before, trolling is a necessary component of the internet. But what I want is smart trolling. I want just devastatingly intelligent trolling. Easy, stupid trolling just makes you look easy and stupid. And it bums me out. I mean, when somebody, I remember once when I was a kid, I tried to get my sister in trouble. She did something pretty egregious that I was like, oh, she was my younger sister, Susie, 2 years younger than me. And I figured, oh, now I have her. So I figured, oh, I've got something on my sister. So I went to my mom to drop this nugget of information that I had acquired. I told my mom thinking, oh yeah, I got one over on Susie. My mom just looks at me and she goes, yeah, I know. And I was like, you know? She goes, yeah, I know. And the way she said it, I knew that she knew that I was just being an asshole. And my mom, which by the way, if you looked at her birthday Robservations chat on April 11th. If you haven't seen that, I encourage you to go watch it because she was delightful. Her 80th birthday. But my mother just looked at me and she knew. She was like, you're just being a dick. Now, my mom would never say that. But that's kind of what like drive-by trolling, fan terrorism is. People are just coming by my Twitter feed or Facebook or whatever, and they've just been dropping spoilers on my page for Avengers Endgame. And I'm just like, wow, I've already seen the movie, first of all, twice. So it was kind of like when I was a kid and tried to get my sister in trouble. And my mom just looked at me. She already knew because parents are omnipotent. They do have eyes in the back of their heads. And I was just a dick for trying to get my sister in trouble. My mom never said that, but she looked at me with such disdain in her eyes. I knew what she was saying. She was saying, Bobby, don't be a dick. That's what Will Wheaton says too, amazingly enough. But yeah, so I was totally called out by my own mom. Well, it's like some guy that came in and dropped this spoiler on my DM today, not knowing I'd seen Endgame twice. Like he's not keeping up with current events. Like there's new chats every day here, son. If I talk about spoilers 3 days ago and the movie's opened and you're trying to drop a spoiler today, you just look pathetic, stupid, and, not witty. You got to be witty. You got to have game. Anyway, just thought I would start with that. It made me think about the time I tried to get my sister in trouble, and my mom just looked at me and was like, really? Really? You're kind of a douche. She didn't say douche, but I knew what she meant. Anyway, so I'm going to start out. As many people know, I don't write. You guys write me letters to the Burnettwork.net, the website that supports this channel. And I want to explain that this channel is once again brought to you by Lucky Tiger men's grooming products for men who want to look good and feel great. I want to thank them for their continued patronage of this channel. I love their product, by the way. I used a little of their facial scrub, which I found out while I interviewed their CEO and president, Alan Murphy. They actually put bamboo in their facial scrub to help you exfoliate, which I didn't know. Anyway, that interview is going to drop next week, and I want to thank you for everyone who wrote to Alan Murphy and asked him to come on my show. So thanks for that. This first letter comes from Paul in Long Beach. Hey, Rob. By the way, all of these letters have a recurring theme, as you might guess. Hey, Rob, just returning home from seeing Endgame here at a Cinemark IMAX. Holy moly. I think you're mixing your metaphors there, Paul. Holy moly. Heading downtown on Monday to see it in 4DX. Cannot wait. Have you seen a 4DX movie? I have not. Kudos to you, sir. You broke a promise to your listeners and yourself. You owned up to the error and corrected that mistake immediately. What Paul is referring to is normally when people send me letters, I ask you all to please tell me whether it's okay to read the letter on air. And one of my listeners actually, or listeners, I guess, told me not to read a letter on air, but I didn't use their name and read it anyway. I thought it was a compromise, but you know what? As I owned up to, the person told me not to read it on air, and I did. And I apologize for it immediately. A lot of people called me on it. Upon reflection, it's an all or nothing proposition. If you say you're not going to read someone's letter on the air, you don't. And that's why it's important. If you write me a letter, tell me whether you want me to read it or not. Kudos to you, sir. You broke a promise to your listeners and yourself. You owned up to the error and corrected that mistake immediately. Please keep just one more promise for me, though. You promised you'd never talk about Star Trek Discovery again. I'm holding you to this, dude. Well, I think I can honestly say I probably will never, ever talk about Star Trek Discovery, at least as the topic of a chat. I will address it if people want to talk to me about it and bring it up in chats or whatever, but I am not going to make it the subject of my chats ever again. As you've asked the Post-Geekers to share their origin stories with you, please allow me to explain where mine began. It's a 70s story. It's an LA story. I was a latchkey kid. Why mention that part, you ask? One answer: variety. I regularly hear how others my age had the big three networks, a local station, and PBS. I did. Not me. I had 4 locals and 2 PBS stations. There was always entertainment for me. I didn't have to stop my stuff for Cronkite or my older brother's TV shows. Without those other options, would Danger Mouse or Johnny Sacco, even Johnny Quest, have been available to me as a young child? The multiplex was kind of a babysitter for my brother and I. Please note, the key word in that sentence isn't babysitter, it's multiplex. The idea of a one-theater town was foreign to me. It allowed 2 very young boys to see films that they should never have and sometimes didn't even understand. It stuns me to this day that I saw The Who's Tommy, but it also explains my irrational fear of Tina Turner. Dog Day Afternoon? Try understanding that film at age of 6. I never forgot those movies, though, especially the impact they had on my childhood. That first moment the monsters started singing Puttin' on the Ritz, I was hooked. Fun fact, my high school mall is Twin Pines Lone Pine Mall. Name the movie, name the local mall. Yes, I was able to watch filming, and the dailies were rushed in my high school theater. Twin Pines and Lone Pines Mall. Well, here's the thing. If I answer that, would it be a spoiler? I don't know. I'm going to say it anyway. Back to the Future, sir. That is a great letter. Thank you very much, Paul in Long Beach, for writing me that. That's fantastic. I really, as I've often said, you guys, you members of this, you gentle beings, you non-binary people, you aliens, whoever you are, you're all welcome here in this, the Post-Geek Singularity community. What I really like is hearing stories of people. How did you become a fan? What was it that drew you in? What made you who you are today? I want to know. And I love getting letters like Paul's. So thanks for that. This comes from Josip Irakovich. I think you're Irakovich. You told me how to pronounce it. Josip Irakovich, like Joseph. He's a longtime member of this, the Post-Geek Singularity community. He is from Croatia. And I enjoy getting letters from him. I've got two fans, Vesna and Josip, who are not here tonight because, or maybe they are, because it's late. They're in, 9 hours ahead of us. But this was a great letter from him, and I wanted to read it. Hey, Rob. 2 days ago, I went to see the premiere of Avengers Endgame. I have never, ever been excited for a single movie since I started going to the movies. The closest I was excited to watch a movie on the big screen was when I was in the cinema for the first time ever, back in the 90s, watching The Lion King. I bought the tickets the same day I was able to buy them. Fortunately, I had the day off from work on the day of the premiere. The excitement was through the roof. I prepared by being very careful. I successfully avoided all spoilers. I didn't drink a lot that day, so I didn't have to go to the bathroom. Even though they said there would be a 15-minute intermission, to my surprise, there was none. So I got to the theater and I saw something I never saw in my multiplex. The theater I was in was completely full. Not one seat was available. I understand that it's completely normal in the US, but here, where people don't go to the movies that much, that is highly unusual. Finally, after what felt like an infinite, no pun intended, number of trailers, the movie started. And then the horror happened. The thing that has not happened to me since I started going to the cinema. The thing that I was afraid of more than anything. The movie froze after 2 minutes. Oh my God, I was paralyzed. You should have seen it. The mob was ready to hang whomever the cinema staff would come through that. Hang whoever from the cinema staff would come through that door, laugh out loud. Anyway, after a good 15 minutes, the movie started over and everyone was relieved. I was never in a hotter theater. It was so hot, and while the AC was working, you could smell the sweatiness from all the geeks inside, laugh out loud. As for my bladder, I sent him on a vacation for the evening. I also brought my nephew with me and told him if he needs to pee, he can do it in the bottle right here at his seat. Didn't even want to hear about it. The movie was absolutely fantastic, and I hoped it would be. It was absolutely fantastic, and all I hoped it would be, and more. It was an orgasmic experience of epic proportions, an emotional roller coaster, and, at least for me, the greatest cinematic experience of the 21st century. I love the movie from beginning to end. I've never cried in the movies, but at this premiere, I wept like a baby at times, and at other times, I was laughing so hard. And it wasn't just me. To my amazement, I turned to the girl on my left, and I saw what I never saw in the cinema. She was wiping a tear off her cheek at a certain point in the movie. I was shocked and suddenly realized I was doing the same. The movie was satisfying in every way and the greatest conclusion I could probably imagine for the Infinity Saga. I'm going to see the movie again on Sunday and probably again after that. By the way, I hope you liked the video I sent you. He did. Joseph sent me a video. It's pretty good. It was the first time I was doing something like that and the first time editing, so I know I did a poor job. Laugh out loud. No, sir, don't say that. You know what you did? You did something you'd never done before. You took a leap. You took How amazing is that? It doesn't matter whether it's good or bad. You were able to jump into a new artistic format that you'd never participated in before, and you did it. And sent it to me. You sent it to me a world away, and I'm going to post it on my page in the Imagination Connoisseur Gallery. So I thank you for that, and congratulations for doing so. How many people think of doing those things but don't? You did it. That's what an Imagination Connoisseur does, my friend, and I want to thank you for that. So don't think you did a poor job. You did your first job. And a little project I've been drawing for you is almost done, so I'll be sending that to you soon. Keep doing what you do. P.S. If you really want to pronounce my name and my last name perfectly, read this. Josip Arakovic. Josip is a Croatian counterpart for Joseph. So long, Josip. So Josip Arakovic or Josip Arakovic. Josip Arakovic. Josip Arakovic. How's that? Is that good? I'm working on it. I'm working on my Serbo-Croatian. But Josip Arakovic, thank you for your letter. Thank you for your video. It was amazing. We don't know what happened. Did he ever empty his bladder and their friend empty the bladder in the bottle? I hope not, because that would not be good. This next letter comes from another person who sent me letters before, a member of the Post-Geek Singularity community. This comes from Noel Ryan. Hello, Rob. Hope you're well. I just wanted to tell you about my amazing day Thursday. I started the day by driving my parents to sort out some old boxes of my old magazines. You drove your parents to sort out some old boxes of your old magazines? I know, I've been there, actually. Through the years, I've collected tons of film and TV magazines, such as Empire Magazine in the UK and Star Trek Monthly, as well as countless more. Now, I had to know I owned a lot of magazines. However, when I opened the boxes, I was suddenly sent back in time. Something I'd completely forgotten about and didn't expect to find was my collection of comic books and graphic novels. Searching through the box, I felt like I was 15 years old again. It was like it was Christmas, and I'd been given a random box of joy. However, what really got me excited when I came across the books titled Ultimate Avengers Volume 1 and 2. As I've said in previous letters, I'm a huge Superman fan and mainly DC, and despite enjoying Spider-Man, Hulk, and the X-Men, I wasn't really an Avengers fan. Ultimate Avengers was my first real window into the Avengers, and I just loved it. From the get-go, I just thought, what a great movie this would make. Now, fast forward to Thursday afternoon, 1600 p.m. UK time, Avengers Endgame. For the second time that day, I felt I was that 15-year-old boy again. From the get-go, Endgame just had me, and it was an emotional roller coaster from start to finish. I remember going to see Iron Man in 2008. I thought it was phenomenal. Back then, I never could have imagined that such a film as Endgame could even have existed. Anyway, I'll try and keep it short. I loved the film and came out with a huge smile of satisfaction. Please feel free to share my letter as you like. Noel Ryan. Well, Noel, I too loved the Ultimates, which was the Ultimate Universe, the Marvel Comics made the Ultimates universe, and the Ultimates were their version of the Avengers, and that's where they came up with the idea. They drew Nick Fury, who used to be a white dude, as Sam Jackson in those comics. Cut to 22 movies later, Sam Jackson's Nick Fury. And it's amazing that they did that. So that was very, very cool. So thanks for that. I appreciate that letter. This one comes from also a longtime viewer and member of the Post-Geek Singularity community, Joe Long. Morning, Rob. Just first off, I wanted to say hello, and I hope your day is going well as always. Well, I wanted to share that I got to see Endgame last night. I watched the 11:30 p.m. showing. After listening to you about the movie, I was so excited to see it, and as I watched it, I couldn't move. After it was over, I can't explain my feelings. They were up and down, and I still can't explain how I feel this morning. I can't wait to talk about it, but I really feel that I need to see it again. Thank you, Rob, and keep being you. your friend and fellow geek, Joe Long, Zombie Dad. And he has a catchphrase too. Joe always says, remember that someone somewhere is thinking of you. So smile. I like that. I like that idea. I just don't think that everybody who's actually thinking of me is necessarily smiling. But that's just me. But anyway, I want to thank everybody for sharing their enthusiasm. Basically, as you know, what I wanted to do was share the love and it, what's so great about growing up geek and having a community of now men and women and gentle beings and non-binary folk and aliens from all around the human spectrum, and probably, hopefully, aliens from extraterrestrial aliens that are real. I don't know. But what I like is having a community of people that they feel welcome here. They can share their enthusiasm because we live, I've been saying this since I've been on Collider Hero since 2015. We live in a golden age. We live in a geektopia. And that's what the post-geek singularity is. I mean, we were all sort of disparate people, sort of locked in our geek closets, afraid to let our freak flags fly. But now we live in a world where geek culture has exploded and has gone mainstream. We live in a sci-fi world. I was always wondering when Black Mirror first debuted, I was like, what does that mean? Well, now see, it's what I was going to show you is that this, my friends, it's a little, I should wipe it down. It's got my fingerprints all over it. This is the Black Mirror of the world we live in. And we have supercomputers in our pockets. We live in wondrous times. It's amazing. Despite all of our ridiculous divisions and the divisiveness between all of us, what's great about us, our community here, is that the imagination, we as imagination connoisseurs, live in a golden age where flights of fancy, where imagination is not just permeating our entertainment, but it's whether you're Elon Musk and you want to shoot a Tesla into space with a human being or a facsimile of a human being sitting in the driver's seat, or whether you want to live in a small house off the grid, or whether you're that kid from, where is he from, either the Netherlands or Denmark, who's figured out how to make self-propelling machines that'll clean plastic out of the ocean. We live in a world that's amazing, and there's amazing possibilities, and you walk outside your house and sure, there's a lot of stuff that I wouldn't necessarily consider to be good going on in the world, but there's a lot of amazing shit happening all around us. And when it comes to our entertainment and our geek interests, there's a lot of stuff. Like think about this weekend, right? I went and saw Endgame, well, twice. I saw the Disney lot. I'm on the Disney lot, like the real Walt Disney lot. I was there. I saw Endgame with me and half the people I knew in this city. And then, of course, I went last night with my girlfriend Elizabeth and her daughter Sophie and one of Sophie's friends from school. And we went to go see Endgame at one of my favorite theaters in LA, the Cinerama Dome, full of an audience of people that were pumped. They laughed, they cheered. The girl behind us was bawling like a baby from one point in the movie to the halfway through the credits. I mean, it was amazing. But I was thinking, like, these events are coming more and more for us. I mean, we've got this great community. We've got great stuff coming. I mean, this weekend, we're the Battle of Winterfell, folks. We've been building up this for 10 years. It's taken 10 years to see 8 seasons of by the way, I've got this is actually a Game of Thrones glass that I have. I think I got it. Somebody gave it to me with beer. Somebody made Game of Thrones beer, and these glasses came with those beers. But we have amazing things. Gotham ended last night. The Orville ended last night, ended its 2nd season. Gotham is gone. Its final season is over. The Battle of Winterfell, which marks, we have 3 episodes after this. We're getting a feature-length, an 80-minute episode of Game of Thrones. It's been leading up to the Battle of Winterfell. I mean, there's more going on. I would imagine that if I made the show, just if I might make a prediction, and I have no foreknowledge, I would say that the White Walker threat will we'll put a pin in it after this episode because there's more to deal with, and I think most of the White Walker story has been focused on the culmination of this battle at Winterfell. Well, what do you do? What do we do as an audience when franchises end? What I've found is that in our pop culture, when a big important show, the first show that I remember ending as a kid was MASH. I think MASH ran for 10 or 11 years, and when the last episode of MASH aired, it was a huge thing. I didn't even, I mean, you couldn't be a kid and not watch MASH because your parents watched MASH and people saw MASH, and there was a lot of MASH going on. So when MASH, when it was over, it was a cultural event because everybody knew about MASH. And I remember it when you couldn't get away from it. There were op-ed pieces. There was all kinds of people talking about, well, what does it mean when something like this ends? And one of the things that I've seen now that I'm old and close to death, I've seen what happens when many of these venerable franchises that we've all been fans of either lie fallow or they go into hibernation, or something happens. And as far as geek culture is concerned, what I'm always surprised by is how quickly things that were at the zenith of their popularity could be in a year or two relegated to the scrap heap of history. I mean, we are a fickle bunch, my friends. As much as we love things and as much as we have so much great stuff to choose from, when it's done, we're on to the next, man. I mean, we drop that stuff like a dirty habit, and it's always fascinated me. For those of you, my good friend Norman Lau, who's written a number of letters that I've read here on the show, he's a huge Babylon 5 fan. And in recent weeks, the beautiful $200 slipcased Babylon 5 encyclopedia is now available. You can get it at Amazon. There's even a video of Claudia Christian opening the book, and she's smelling the pages. And I know what it's like because I'm a huge, you can't really see it behind, but well, I love Taschen books, and behind this, you just take my word for it. I'm a fiend for Taschen books. I love Taschen books, and when you get them, the smell of the paper, there's nothing better than that. And you could tell that Claudia Christian, when she opened up her Babylon 5 book, her 2-volume encyclopedia set, and she was just drinking it in. I can't imagine what it's like to be an actress and somebody publishes this. How many years after the fact has Babylon 5 been gone? We're 2 decades out. Does anybody watch Babylon 5 anymore? I love Babylon 5. I think Babylon 5 is incredible. Like Deep Space Nine, the first season was it was just slow and kind of plodding. But, once you get to the Circle trilogy of the second season of Deep Space Nine, it really starts to take off. And, of course, the second season of Babylon 5, amazing. It was unfortunate they had to end the Shadow War in the middle of the 4th season. And even though I like season 5, it's not as good as it could have been. But that was because J. Michael Straczynski had to bring an abrupt end to the show. But they had the foresight to shoot the last episode early on, so it was great. But those people that love Babylon 5, I mean, of course, there was Crusade, and then there was, unlike a lot of franchises, we got a lot of a few Babylon 5 TV movies, so it got to go on. I mean, the X-Files, they tried to bring the X-Files back in a different time period, and I think what they called seasons 10 and 11, not so good. Star Wars, there's all kinds of things. I mean, we're getting the end of the Skywalker saga finally, but this final trilogy really wasn't about the Skywalkers. They tried to bring in new characters. It didn't really, I mean, look, I love Star Wars. Anybody can tell you Star Wars changed my life. But, what happens to franchises? The success is a franchise's own worst enemy. In the case of Star Wars, it was pretty much the vision of one man. He had lots of people helping him, but Star Wars, Empire, Jedi, Phantom Menace, Attack of the Clones, and Revenge of the Sith were basically products of George Lucas. Ultimately, you saw 6 films, and I've always said I hate the prequels as movies, but I like them as Star Wars, if that makes sense to you. I do enjoy the prequels. I enjoy the Star Wars nature of the prequels because I think there's a really interesting story being told there. I just think that the in the telling of it, not as good as it could have been. But what do we do? What do we do when these franchises end? Game of Thrones, after this weekend, after the Battle of Winterfell, 3 episodes left. I should say 3. The Marvel Cinematic Universe, is it over? I mean, sure, we're probably going to get more movies. We're getting Spider-Man Far From Home in July. I know that they're going to announce, they might make an Eternals movie. They're developing that. We might get Doctor Strange 2. We know that Black Widow starts shooting next month in Europe. I mean, and I've heard it's a prequel. I mean, who knows? It's what do you do? But after a 22 film, how many franchises have had 22 films? I mean, we got James Bond. They've been announcing James Bond 25. I'm deliriously excited for James Bond 25. It's been going on since 1962. How crazy is that? I mean, we're now looking at the 25th Bond franchise film. Of course, we don't count the original Casino Royale. We don't actually. Casino Royale has been now made 3 times. There was the American television version with Barry Nelson playing Jimmy Bond, the American agent. There was, of course, the comedic version of Casino Royale from the late 60s, and of course, Daniel Craig's version. And then we had, of course, Never Say Never Again, which is not an official James Bond movie that came out in 1983, the same year as Octopussy came out. We had 2 James Bond movies, but we're getting Bond 25. It's Daniel Craig's last outing as 007. Is there a place for James Bond in the modern world? I mean, he's a relic of the Cold War, a sexist, misogynist dinosaur, as M called him in 1995's GoldenEye. He was sexist and misogynist, and he was a dinosaur in 95. In 2019, #MeToo. Judi Dench laid it on the line in 95, and yet he's still sticking around. But what do we do with these franchises? What do they mean to us? I mean, look, Star Trek has been around for 53 years. It's been a part of my life. It was here before I was born. It's going to be here probably since, well, when I die. Hopefully sooner, not sooner. Hopefully later rather than sooner. Although the state of the Star Trek franchise over the last 10 years has often made me want to die. And that hasn't changed much over the last 10 years, unfortunately. 3 feature films and 2 seasons of the most expensive science fiction television show ever made. I'm left unsatisfied. I don't know why. Well, because it's not good. But anyway, I'm not going to get into that. What do we do when our favorite franchises end? Your favorite book series. What happens when Harry Potter ends? J.K. Rowling, we got Fantastic Beasts. She'll write a play. I mean, I have to tell you, there's a book series that I love by a guy named Andrew Vachss, Vachss. And I've talked about this before, but the whole series of books is about a character named Burke, who's kind of this off-the-grid do-gooder who is living in New York City and only goes after people that victimize children. Well, I think there's 20 books in the franchise. I read every one. I have a first edition of the first book, Flood. If you haven't read Flood, it's fantastic. Andrew Vachss is great. He's even written some Batman stuff for the comics. The last book he wrote, the last Burke novel, Another Life. I have every Burke novel in hardcover. I didn't read it. I didn't read the last Burke novel. I didn't read Another Life. I couldn't read it. I knew it was the last Burke novel. I'd read 20 hardcover novels. I love these books. And the final book comes out, and normally I would literally read these books in one sitting. I couldn't read this book. I was like, I didn't want it to end. And in my mind, the Burke franchise hasn't ended because I think the book came out might have been 10 years ago. I have it out there. It's in mint condition. I have it out in the garage with all my books. My books are on the shelves. And I mean, there are many book franchises. James Lee Burke. Burke is the character in Andrew Vachss's novels, but another author I love is James Lee Burke, whose character Dave Robichaux made into films. Heaven's Prisoners was based on one of his books. In the Electric Mist with Tommy Lee Jones, he played Dave Robichaux, and I'm like, I love those books. He's writing a new one now, but what do we do when our franchises end? I I feel bittersweet because I don't know if you guys feel the same way as I do, but if you like movies or television, I watch movies over and over again. You tend to think of the characters as your friends, like in some way in your imagination, whatever it is, they're like your friends, like them. Whatever you're like Delta Tau Chi, the characters in Animals, like I know those guys. I know Pinter, Harold Pinter, Pinto and Otter. Oh, yes. I've been told that there are two really bad trolls in this. Oh, here we go. You're a troll. You're out. I got you. Elizabeth told me that there are trolls. I apologize for trolls, people. I'm looking for bad trolls who are not smart. I apologize. First of all, I apologize for, you know what? Like here, look, I got a Hannibal Lecter figure that's not out of the box from Enterbay, and rudeness is unspeakably evil. Hannibal Lecter doesn't like it. He eats the rude, the free range rude, as he said. So I apologize that there are trolls in here and that people have been disrespectful. Discourtesy is unspeakably evil to me, as I'm like that with. I appreciate that with Hannibal Lecter. I'm with him. I'm sorry. I'm looking for more trolls. I'm sorry that person was in here from the beginning and that you had to put up with him. But see, now I'm off my game. Now I'm like, what's going on? I got rid of that troll. I'm looking for other trolls. I don't understand. Like, we're trying to have some cogent discourse where everybody's involved and it's all good. But anyway, so what do you do when your franchise ends? What happens? I mean, with Star Wars, it's been interesting to watch because Star Wars as a franchise has evolved. I lived through a time when Star Wars ended in '83, the toys petered out, and even when something is huge in pop culture at its zenith, it goes away. The shelf life of pop culture stuff, its popularity. When was the last time you got in a water cooler discussion about The Sopranos? The X-Files was a cultural zeitgeist show for a long time. I mean, when it's amazing how quickly things go away. Game of Thrones, after this week, you have 3 weeks left before it's done. Yeah, HBO's making a prequel series set thousands of years in the past, but it's not. It might work, but it's there was an aftermath. They made more American Graffiti. I mean, sure, there were a lot of spin-offs from popular shows in the 70s, but wasn't the Jeffersons a spinoff of All in the Family, or Maude coming off? There was Frasier was a spinoff of Cheers. Sometimes it works. Sometimes these things permeate the cultural zeitgeist, but more often than not, then they don't. Game of Thrones is going to be gone in 3 more weeks after. Well, it's going to be gone in 24 days. It's over. All those characters, who knows what's going to happen? Who you got in your death pool? And when we internalize, I mean, we've all gone. The MCU and Game of Thrones are both essentially in their current forms ending, and they've both been taking us on a journey that's lasted the better part of a decade. When Game of Thrones, I think, debuted in 2011, but they shot it. There was a pilot shot it. They retooled it all and they reshot the pilot. And so the people that have been working on that show, some of them have worked on the show for a decade. But when they're gone, when the story is over, we move on. I was happy to hear Ozark got renewed for a 3rd season. My girlfriend got me into it. I really liked Ozark, liked the characters. But what happens to our fantasy lives when, our imaginative lives, when these characters go away? It's sad. And what I thought was interesting, and I think, correct me if I'm wrong, or if you guys don't believe in this, but when we internalize characters like this, and when we love them and buy action figures, and I mean, we love these things so much, they become part of our lives. They're not real, but the way we've incorporated them into ourselves is real. We we contemplate the plights of these characters and what they're doing and what they're feeling and where they're coming from. So even though they're fictional, if the characters seem realistic, I mean, great stories, even though they're fictional, they resonate with us because they feel real. They feel like, oh my God, these are real characters. These people, like, I believe the Corleone family is real. Godfather 1 and 2 I've watched so many times, and I go back, and even though the movie doesn't change, in my mind I'm visiting my friends again. The movies that I love to watch. I love Goodfellas and I love Casino. Watching Martin Scorsese's movies, I mean, they make me feel like I'm watching people that really exist. And certainly Star Trek did. Star Trek was the first. I mean, James Kirk, Leonard McCoy, Spock, these are the first characters that lived on. They lived beyond the TV show, and they somehow took up residence in my imagination, and they never left. And what happens when those franchises end? Those characters, at least in my mind, they don't go away. You don't think about them as much, but you incorporate them into your worldview or their choices. I mean, sure, I understand it was actors and writers and showrunners and producers and directors that create, and the editors, of course, don't forget the editors who crafted these things. And if they have truth in them, and that truth is self-evident, they become real to us. And when they end, they don't leave our imaginations. They stay with us forever. And it's interesting. I've often thought about, like, do the creators of these things, look, a lot of the time I feel that one of the great tragedies of my life, especially the last 10 years, people are gonna be like, oh, Rob. Now, when I say tragedy, I'm talking about my imaginative life. I'm relatively healthy, God forbid. Who knows? I might find, if I have another colonoscopy, I'll find polyps and they'll find terminal cancer. I'll be dead in a month. I don't know. But, and so I understand there are people that are facing that. People even here, the great Doshi, found out, diagnosed with leukemia, who's been a member of this community since I started. He didn't know. He doesn't even know if he's going to be around to see Star Wars. I can't even imagine what that's like to not be able to see episode 9. I remember, I think it was it Warren Zevon or somebody like that who found out they had terminal cancer and just wanted to see the new James Bond movie. I mean, it seems silly in this world where so many people are oppressed and so much horror. Human beings are perpetrating horrors on other people. But the fact of the matter is, be that as it may, it doesn't matter where you're from. Imagination and storytelling always captures you. You can be in the worst war-torn environment, but if you have respite from that for a moment and somebody tells you a story, that story might never leave you. And that imagination is really, really important to our lives. And our imagination, our characters that live in our imaginations, are they any really less real? Like, if you have a friend or you read a history book, is history, even though you know it happened, isn't it just a story if you don't live through it yourself? It lives in your imagination. So I think that there's a responsibility, a great responsibility when creators are making these things that catch fire with the public. Unfortunately, the Star Trek franchise is not being made by people who love Star Trek. Whereas the Marvel Cinematic Universe, especially as evidenced by what was put on screen, even if you have problems with Endgame, to my mind, it's such a rousing entertainment. And it was such a great capper to the Infinity Saga. It was such a lovingly crafted film that was juggling. I mean, I've never seen a movie that juggles so many, I don't want to spoil it, but so many things and does it so well, so deftly juggles so many things. And what an amazing experience for me, for a kid who's never really grown up. I mean, I watched that film. I was astonished by it. And it's funny because then it really sort of separates the different kinds of fandom. There's lots of people, Infinity War was better. I'm like, totally different movies. If you want to see action and superhero stuff, that's great. Infinity War is great for that. From the very beginning, practically, you got shit going down in New York. But that's not what Endgame does. Endgame changes it up. And it still becomes, it's a superhero film with an incredibly sprawling, epic story to tell. It's wildly entertaining. It diverges from unbelievable pathos in one moment to sadness to another moment to humor in another. I mean, it's really interesting. There's a lot of people that there are choices in the film that were made that it challenges people. It's not exactly what they wanted, so they decide they don't like it. And which I've always thought was interesting. Like I don't make decisions like that, but I understand why. People are like, well, I don't like what they did with such and such character. I don't like to see them that way. But what's funny to me is rather than dislike that, I find it amazing that people object to what happens to a character because that character lives within them so strongly that when they see that character as anything less than perfect, they get upset. And that's amazing. That's an amazing thing to see because it speaks to the incredible nature of the creativity that's on display and how much it resonates. Look, we all live in the real world. We all know what we can believe. And what's harder to make anybody believe than anything is things that are completely unbelievable. If you can make people believe things that are completely unbelievable, you're an amazing creator of great fiction. And I think the Marvel Cinematic Universe is a testament to that. 22 movies that probably as of this weekend, 22 movies will have grossed $19 billion. Endgame's runaway success, which has dwarfed anything in cinema history, proves multi-generations of people are running out and loving this film. And they're loving it because it's fucking great. And it's the great culmination of something. But you know what? I'm going to feel sad when it's gone. They're going to make new Marvel movies. I know. But there's a finality to certain elements of Endgame. And there's a finality because when you span a decade of time, now we're into the 11th year of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, people change. I've had people write me, they were 8 when Iron Man came out. Now they're 19 in college. Imagine how different you were between 8 and 19 years of age. That is an eternity in someone's young life. I mean, you're a completely different person on every level. And yet the Marvel Cinematic Universe was there for the duration. Star Trek has been around my entire life. I've watched it grow and change. And when I lose something like this, it's when it goes away and it leaves you, you're looking for something to fill the void. Hopefully it's not drugs and alcohol. You're looking for the next imaginative fix. What's that going to be? I don't know. But what I know for a fact is something will come along. If there's one great thing about being an imagination connoisseur, it's that our imaginations are constantly being filled with great stuff, whether it's books, movies, comics, toys, action figures, computer games, video games, role-playing games. There's so much stuff being produced, so much good stuff, that when one great imaginative franchise comes to an end, another one is simply waiting in the wings to carry you through the next decade. That's pretty cool. Anyway, let's see what anybody has to say. First of all, I'll go back in and look at what we've got here. I think I've got a couple of super chats, couple of them right here. Meester 25 says, "Saw Endgame, my blue jeans turned white. Laugh out loud." Well, that's good. I on one hand, when you say your blue jeans turned white, perhaps I don't want to know that, but I'm glad that it happened. I think it's fantastic. Ilmantient. Let's see. Am I getting that right? Ilmantient says, "You're the best friend I never had, Rob." Well, I want to thank you for that. I would like to say the same, but I don't know you. But I'd like to, what I like about what you just said is the sentiments there. I mean, what I want is that you know what this place should be. I hate to say this, I hate to bring this up. It's very sad. There was a restaurant in Los Angeles called Lola's, and every Sunday night, my coterie of geek friends, or the New Zoo review crew, whatever you want to call them, we all knew that Lola's was our standing Sunday evening. We'd show up there and have dinner, and then we'd have drinks until the place closed usually. And they had great martinis, actually the apple martini, which was originally called the Adam's apple, was invented at Lola's, believe it or not. I don't know if that's in Wikipedia, but it's true. And from, the late 90s into the mid-aughts, it closed, I want to say, in 2013. There's a picture on my Facebook when I'm standing outside of Lola's, but it was a place to go where all geeks, all of us, before I coined the phrase imagination connoisseurs, we were all welcome. I'd like to think that this place, this Robservations, the Post-Geek Singularity, is that. It is for you all to have a place to come so we can geek out. We can geek out in relative safety. Dieter Bastian is here from all the way from Germany. Dieter Bastian says, starting a new franchise. I've watched Escape Room. Not that bad. If I remember correctly, you said you know the director. Any chance for an interview with him on your show about the next installment? Well, it just so happens I do. The director of Escape Room is named Adam Robitel. He is a tremendous guy, one of the most handsome dudes I've ever met in my life. And I was with him in Australia for almost a year working on Superman Returns. I think he sold a pitch today and he sold both a new movie and a TV series pitch today. I bet I can get him on here. That's a great idea. I want to have more people come on and do more interviews and I'm going to really step up this chat game thing. There's a couple of other people I also want to bring on as regular columnists that have different points of view than I do, but people that I respect and people that I've come to like via their social media presence. But I think, Dieter, that's a great idea. I will ask Adam Robitel to do that. I think it'd be fantastic. Willow Yang is here. Oh, wait, did I miss something that Willow set up above? Yes. Willow Yang says, just watched Conscience of the King. That would be an original series Star Trek episode from the first season. So has anyone heard of this ancient technique that people 200 years ago used called DNA profiling? Come on now, Willow. I know you're a molecular biologist by trade. But yes, DNA profiling, it's going to be the next big thing. Ancestry, 23andMe, they're probably already doing it, aren't they? Willow says, still, I like the episode, though. Looking forward to watching Balance of Terror tomorrow. I've heard good things. Boy, for those of you who know, I love the original series, the original Star Trek series. Balance of Terror is one of the highlights of the first season. It's also one of, I think, the best Star Trek episodes ever. It is our introduction to the Romulans. It is a fantastic episode of Star Trek. So, report back. Doshi is here. Doshi, how are you, sir? How's your health? Saw Endgame. Haven't cried this much since Toy Story 3. Well, Doshi, I'm glad you dug it. I'm glad your friend, it was Alex, your friend Alex, she took you, didn't she? She has been here supporting you. It's great to hear that you got out to go see Endgame. That's fantastic. And it's cry time, as John Campy says. Cry time, big cry time. Karamam, Tariq, Karum Tariq. I think I got that right. Says, I want to sit with you and geek out. Well, you are. We're virtually geeking out right now. I've got my Game of Thrones glass of water and ice water. I love, by the way, I think my favorite drink of all time might be water with big chunks of ice in it, to be honest. For all of the talk I make about alcohol, and look, I love whiskeys of all kinds and beers and wines. Cold water, though, could very well be my favorite alcoholic beverage, even though it's not alcoholic. But it's fantastic. It goes down smooth. I love it. Let's see who else is here. Are there any more trolls? I mean, this guy, like, really? You know what I got to make? I'm going to make Elizabeth if Mike Bob's not here, I'm making Elizabeth a moderator, and she's going to ban your ass. She's going to bring down the ban hammer because she's going to help me out. Doshi, Arrow, I'm sorry about that guy. I apologize. You know what? Hannibal Lecter had it right. he killed rude people and ate them. Free range rude. I think that wasn't so bad. That wasn't such a bad idea. Dax Jacobson says, read Clive Cussler books. That guy will never die. Clive Cussler's been around for a long time, like Alistair MacLean. I remember, same thing, these action adventure books. I remember reading Alistair MacLean. I think the first Alistair MacLean book, because he wrote like The Guns of Navarone. The first Alistair MacLean book I ever read was Goodbye, California, which is, of course, about a giant earthquake. But I heard that it was like the first book I ever heard advertised on the radio. Let's see. Willow Yang says, oh, I'm sorry, you guys. I really apologize that we had to deal with trolls tonight. I'm sorry. Oh, wait, here's another troll that's going away too. So you're gone as well. Again, I apologize. I got to have more moderators coming in here. Danny Pearson says, speaking of beasts, I'm already set for tomorrow's brand new Power Rangers Beast Morphers on Nickelodeon, where Nate becomes the Gold Ranger. It's morphin' time. Activate beast power. I didn't know that. Well, that's good. That's I'm glad you're digging that. That's good. So yeah, I'm sorry I got rid of Arrow. What a it's like, don't you have better things to do? I don't know, perhaps not, but you should. I can't pronounce this. You know what? Let me put my glasses on so I can just see this quickly. Let's see. That's little Nate ain't. I think I got it right. Little Nate ain't. Thanks for that super chat. I think it's Little Nate ain't. I like that. Now that I can actually see it and read. Lucas James says, I'm a high schooler from Michigan, and I just shot my first documentary and wrote and illustrated my first book. What should I do next? Well, first of all, Lucas, dude, that, my friend, can I just say this? It's late night. It's fucking awesome that you shot your first documentary and illustrated and wrote your first book. What should you do next? I don't know, but keep it going. I mean, keep that creativity, keep those fires burning. That's amazing that you did that. And I've always said work begets work. Congratulations, and send it in, please. Let's see a bit of it. Share it with us. We'd like to see it. That's fantastic. I think that's really great. Richard Ford says Endgame was outstanding. Wrap up of so many threads. Wow. I know, it's crazy, right? Doshi says, spoiler, I am Groot. I am Groot. Sorry, Rob. Well, Doshi, we are Groot. Anyway, I'm just happy you're here, brah. Yeah, Doshi, I'm sorry Arrow trolled you. That's just not good. That's what a dick. Richard Lee says, Rob, everyone else, if you find a person named Razorblade in here, get rid of them. He's harassed a friend of mine, ruined Endgame by posting multiple Endgame spoilers in his Discord and in his comments. Yeah, I don't like that. Oh, writer BL Alley is here. Hello, sir. Happy Days holds the record for most spinoffs. I didn't know that. I know that Mork and Mindy, Joni Loves Chachi, but wow, that's interesting. I did not know. That's good to know. Very interesting. I didn't know that. Jake Theron says, but we get a new series next year. Is that the Picard series? Are you talking about Star Trek? Chad Crypto says, get them trolls. Yes, I should make you all moderators. We should all moderate ourselves. Willow Yang says, laugh out loud, Dax Jacobson. Thanks, but I just might go drunk with power. Yeah, I think Willow Yang would go drunk with power. I could see her becoming a complete tyrant. Victory Unlimited show is here. It's always good when the Victory Unlimited show is here. He says, the end of a good franchise is like the death of a loved one. If it ends leaving you joyful, thrilled, and satisfied, then its end will be bittersweet. But if it doesn't, its end will be much harder to cope with. I like that. That's really good. It's funny. I read a letter from Victory Unlimited not too long ago, and there is a show called The Victory Unlimited Show. I think you should all go seek out and find it. Sound very interesting to me, even from the titles that I read from Victory's letter. But I can't. I always hear a propaganda movie from the 1940s. We will be triumphant. We will achieve victory. So I feel like I have to say it that way, which I actually kind of like. Bullvine DeHerder is here. Love to see a Pike and Spock show. Just rewatched the first pilot. Pike was a badass. I love and grew up with Kirk Trek, but I want to see more Pike, Anson Mount. He did a good job. You know what? For all of my hatred of Star Trek Discovery, I loved Anson Mount as Pike. I just wish that he was given more to do. I thought the writing, the plot was so bad. But, you know what? Greg Smith says, make me an administrator. I have a good band hammer. I'm going to do that. I trust Greg Smith. I went to school with Greg Smith. I've just made Greg Smith an administrator. And he is an administrator. Joanna from Canada says, your puppy. My puppy is around. I don't know where Gilbert is. He's probably, we took Gilbert out. Elizabeth and I took Gilbert for a walk, and we went down to Lucky Baldwin's, which is actually a Trappist. It's a tavern. And what's great is they have an outdoor place to sit there. They have all good food, and they make dogs chicken breasts. They grill chicken breasts for dogs with nothing on them. Or you can get them with rice. So Gilbert loves to go there, and we took Gilbert out, and he had chicken. And he did steal a fryer too. Steve James says, I'm currently going through Deep Space Nine and Voyager for the first time. Just finished Deep Space Nine Season 5 and Voyager Season 3. Interesting, Steve. What do you think? I will tell you, Season 5 of Deep Space Nine began with the episode Apocalypse Rising. I think that the sixth season of Deep Space Nine is the strongest season overall of any modern Star Trek show of the Berman era, beginning in 87 with TNG. You, sir, are in for a treat. Voyager, starts to get really interesting when 7 of 9 comes on board. I'll be curious to hear. Please report back when you've watched. Tell me what you think. Let's see. Rick Bocanegra. Bocanegra. I've seen it twice. So good. I would assume you're talking about Endgame. Robert Green says, people like that just made me stronger. Don't let them win. I agree. Patrick Glanville is here. I'm torn about the Hamill tweet. Loved it. Don't care for the alt-right douches chirping about it. I would assume you're talking about Mark Hamill. Mark Hamill tweeted. I actually almost used his tweet. I almost used his tweet for the thumbnail for this. But it showed him, old Luke, Han, Leia, and Lando in the cockpit of the Millennium Falcon. And to be honest, I think that's what we all wanted. We all wanted to see Star Wars is Luke, Han, and Leia, and Lando, and R2, and 3PO. And if they had if The Force Awakens was about those characters, we saw these other peripheral characters being introduced through their eyes, it would have been more resonant to us. I mean, it came out that the Rise of Skywalker trailer was soft compared to other trailers. And I think that's because, it's not just the controversy that happened over The Last Jedi, but ultimately they're trying to tell us a new story with these new characters when really, even people new to the franchise, we really wanted to see a satisfying end to Luke, Han, Leia, and all of the rest. That's just a theory. Emmanuel Ericart is here. I don't believe you've ever sent me a super chat before, Emmanuel, but thank you for that. Thank you for your positive attitude on times that hate sells more than goodness. It's really great to see. Waiting Sunday for the spoiler discussion. For those who don't know, Emmanuel, first of all, thank you for that. John Campea and I are going to go starting at noon on the John Campea show. We are going to do an Avengers Endgame spoiler discussion that we anticipate is going to last 4 hours. So please join in for that conversation because it's going to be epic. But yeah, I mean, look, hate, it's easy. Hate is easy. But you know what? I've never been that kind of guy. I mean, I don't even hate people I probably should hate in my life. I mean, life's pretty good. Like, there's so much good stuff that I love. Like, I'll give you an example. Like the other day I got in the mail. I don't know if you can't really see this, but this is it's vinyl masks and it's backing plates for the lighting system for this 2001 model that I've wanted to get my whole life, literally, and they never made one until now. But I've got the lighting kit ready, and I'm going to build it. It's a 1/8 scale EVA pod from 2001. Open the pod bay doors, please, Hal. And now I have all the secondary market parts that I need, the etched brass, the detail parts, the lighting parts, and I'm going to build it. And the idea that I live in a world where somebody made me an EVA pod that just came out last month from 2001: A Space Odyssey, which came out in 1968, and they've done such a wonderful job. What's not to love? I mean, I can't believe. And there's all these secondary market people that will make accessories for it, and you can build it. And it's just, we live in great times, my friends. I mean, I can go see Endgame and then come back and build spaceship models I've wanted to build my whole life that didn't even exist until this year. So, what did Obi-Wan say? Don't give in to hate; it leads to the dark side. And of course, Spock said, "Live long and prosper." It's kind of variations on a theme. Joanna from Canada. I like that. Joanna from Canada. That could be like my punk band name. Hey, Rob, I'm probably one of the only people who loved Superman Returns from 2006. It had the spirit of the original. Did you like it? Okay, Joanna. For those of you who don't know, I worked on Superman Returns. I'm actually in Superman Returns. I play the NASA reporter. My character's name. In the credits, it just says NASA reporter. But I even have a credit as an actor in Superman Returns. My character's name was Ross Campbell, or is Ross Campbell, NASA reporter. You see me on screen during a rack focus, so I'm on screen for like 15 frames, literally. But I'm in the bar. You can hear my voice in the bar before the shuttle rescue scene when Jimmy Olsen's getting drunk and Clark is there in the bar talking with him. I made a documentary. Adam Robitel, the director of Escape Room, contributed to the documentary called Requiem for Krypton. It's a 3-hour making of documentary that you can watch on the Blu-ray for Superman Returns. It is near and dear to my heart. I think I'd love to see a different version of that movie made, because I think the half an hour, I saw a 3-hour version of it that I thought was the definitive version, but they had to cut it down because a lot of young people, the kids, didn't know what was happening. But the movie was, I spent a year of my life working on, actually 2 years of my life working on the film, and I loved it. Elizabeth is saying, Victor Acosta says, that's because it's his last pair. Gilbert eats them. Yes, I'm taking off these glasses. Gilbert eats all of my glasses. I don't know why. Elizabeth buys these packs of like 10 readers, and she takes 5 and I take 5. I should get some. Look, I want to get some Tom Ford prescription reader glasses as I get older. My macular degeneration is setting in. But I don't know if you can get Tom Ford reader glasses. So Elizabeth buys these bulk, get 10 glasses, and they last. Gilbert eats them. Gilbert gets them. And so, yeah. It's crazy. Mark Termel says, yep, saw Endgame this afternoon, cried and laughed. Such a great conclusion. Absolutely. Steve James says Laverne and Shirley 2. Steve is talking about another Happy Days spinoff that BL Alley rightly pointed out is the most spun off show. I didn't know that. Dieter Bastian says, hey, Rob, any chance we'll get to know what Elizabeth and her girls thought of Avengers Endgame? Sophie loved it. Elizabeth, what did you think of Avengers Endgame? She says, oh, I loved it. Well, why don't you come here? Why not? She doesn't want to come here. She's never been on the show. She won't come here. Why don't you come on the show? She says not tonight. She's taking off her makeup and she's in bed and she's all snuggled up with Gilbert. I understand. Even though I don't understand. She could come on here and it's okay. She'll come back. Josip says, I love Lursen Betor. Great characters. Those are TNG characters. I agree. I loved Lursen Betor. Ryder BL Ali says there were 7 shows and 2 pilots spun off from Happy Days. I imagine that's what you're saying. That's amazing. I did not know that. My name is Steve Rogers says Endgame is on a scale hitherto undreamt of. I agree. You know, it's interesting. To me, it was a litmus test for what people want. Like, I thought the first 2 hours of the movie were so great, and we're all going to be debating over a certain what would you call it? I don't want to give any spoilers out, but there's a certain element of there's a certain science fiction physics trope about, I don't want to say, but they make, and this science fiction physics trope that has rules, and every time we've seen it in different things, there's different rules. And this film has a really interesting take on that physics trope, and we'll be talking about it for a long time. It'll be interesting. John Suttress is here from the Word Balloon podcast. I've always said, if you have not listened to the Word Balloon podcast, you should. It's been going on for years. John does a great job. It's a great pop culture podcast. And if you love comic books, he probably has interviewed your favorite creator at some point. Check it out. John says, Forgotten Happy Days spinoff, Blansky's Beauties, about Vegas showgirls with Nancy Walker and Eddie Mecca. There was a Nancy Walker spinoff from, really? That's crazy. Victor Acosta says, Rob, I have a petition. You should find some way to fly Willow out to LA and make her do an on-camera interview with you for episode 150. By the way, she hates the idea and wants me to be banned for it. Well, she doesn't even have to fly out here. She can do it on Skype, but she's shy and bashful. But I think she should come on here. As a matter of fact, there's a couple of you. I think we should. I've told you guys that we should have like a roundtable discussion, like in Google Hangouts for some of the regulars here, and we should just get you all to talk and converse. But I think Willow's shy and insecure about herself. She's said that in the letters she's written to me, and that I've read to you. But I would like, I just want to know what her voice sounds like. Quite frankly, I want to look through her book collection, too. And her chat, her. I want to look through her browser history. Mark Ernest says, I lived in Japan for 17 years while stationed in Japan while in the Navy, and love the animation there. I love Spirited Away. Do you have a favorite Studio Ghibli movie? You know what? I probably it is Nausicaa? No, in the Valley of the Wind. I think my favorite studio. I love Princess Mononoke and Howl's Moving Castle. But you know what? My Neighbor Totoro, and I came to them early, Kiki's Delivery Service, but I really liked Howl's Moving Castle a lot. And I really liked Princess Mononoke. I really did. But I go way back with anime. If I had known you when you were in Japan, I would have written you lots of letters and told me to send you stuff, or send me stuff, buy model kits and Gundam models and diecast stuff, because I can't get enough. I'm halfway through the first half of Space Battleship Yamato 2202, and it's amazing. Dale M says, yep, I don't do cameras either, so I don't blame her. I don't blame Willow. Come on, Dale. You don't do cameras? What about any overseas friends you might have? How do you not work cameras in that? I don't know. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Doshi says, R&B, can I ever Skype and be on the show? Doshi, yes, we should talk about that. You've emailed me. I would love that. I would love to get you on the show and talk to you about what you're going through and have you check in. As a matter of fact, it kind of would be fun if we did sort of a weekly Doshi update and see how you're doing, on the road to the rise of Skywalker, something like that. I like that idea. Let's talk about that. You got to write my people like Mike Bodden or Elizabeth. Doshi says, God damn, I'm not feeling so good. I got to go. All right. Well, you go, Doshi. Feel better. But I like this idea about Skyping with you or putting you on the show. I think that would be good. Word Balloon says, Joanna is in for some good Rob stories about Superman Returns. Oh, they are endless. Oh, they're endless. Chad Crypto says, Uncle Remus, there is rumors Harrison Ford might be back for a dream sequence for Kylo. You know what? After seeing certain movies that might be in the theater right now, I'm not surprised that you could just do just about anything. I think that's good. I think it's good. Why not? Patrick Glanville says, I was a bit obsessed with Cindy Williams, Shirley on Laverne and Shirley. Who wasn't? Shirley was my jam. You know, it was kind of that Marianne and Ginger question, but as talented as Penny Marshall was, I think Shirley was she was the one everybody talked about. Ryder Biel Ali says, Doshi, feel better. And remember, the first best defense is a positive attitude. I know it's hard, but you can do it. I think so too. Matt Deckard says, where's my Orville renewal? Haven't seen it yet. I'm going to go watch after this chat. Go watch last night's Orville. Can't wait to see that. Looking forward to it. I know it's a direct, comes right on the heels of last week's. Fenwar says, Rob, ever think of getting more into acting? Yeah, I acted all through elementary school and junior high and high school, but then people started to take it really seriously. When I was younger, in my younger, prettier, thinner days, a lot of people said I should act. I mean, if you've seen pictures of me, I probably could have been an actor, but if people took it, I was strictly behind the scenes, man. I was fascinated by the language, and I love the making of movies, and I never wanted to be an actor. Not my jam. That was for other people. Plus, I would have had to work out all the time, and I couldn't have become a functioning alcoholic, and that would have been no fun. But I would have made probably more money if I would have done like one show and fallen into obscurity. I would have been someone's boyfriend on Melrose Place, and that would have been my biggest claim to fame. And then I would have fallen into obscurity, not unlike my career is right now. Uncle Remus says Superman Returns had good casting and brought back a memory of Christopher Reeve movies, but the movie was kind of boring. Superman really had nothing to do. It was just a different take. It was a different take on that. Joanna from Canada says, Chad Crypto, yes, I thought Brandon really channeled his spirit. That movie is close to my heart. I agree with you. It's close to my heart too. Joanna from Canada also says, I love your best movie, worst movie podcast. Can't get enough. Yeah, I always forget. About that. For those of you who don't know, John Campia, myself, and Cody Miller, Olympic gold medalist Cody Miller, do a movie podcast called Best Movie, Worst Movie. Check it out. I think you guys will like it. It's fun. Brad Brickley, Captain Brad. I wish it would say Captain Brad. Brad Brickley, who I actually got to meet here. Well, not here, but I got to meet in Washington State, Wenatchee. Brad came down from Anacortes, where he lives with his lovely wife, who has allowed him to build an awesome man cave in their house. It's not really a cave. I think it's up top. But Brad is actually a Washington State ferry boat captain. He captains a 300-foot ship, which is amazing. Brad says, still blown away after the second viewing of Endgame. Satisfied. See, I think that's pretty cool. We have people here like Brad who, like, he gets 150 cars on his ferry, and he commands a 300-foot ship that, by the way, I'm going to one day go on and make him. He said I could pilot the boat, but I have to keep it a secret and not tell anyone. So I'm not going to tell anybody that I'm going to go on Brad's ferry one day and drive the boat. But you know what I want to do? Here's what I want to do. If Brad ever lets me captain the ferry when we're in the deep water, I want to do a whole 360-degree circle. I've always wanted to see a ferry, just see how can it corner? How can a 300-foot ferry boat? What's the diameter of this? Can we do that, Brad? Will anybody care? Do they have a GPS? Will the satellites know? Victory Unlimited Show says, if you had your way, how would you bring the Fantastic Four into the Marvel Universe? I've thought about that. I think you have to introduce, if I brought the Fantastic Four into the Marvel Universe, you got to do what you do with Black Panther. You at least introduce Reed Richards and Sue Storm into the Marvel Universe in a movie first. Probably a Spider-Man movie. I mean, that's how I would do it, is introduce them first as Reed and Sue, and introduce them as characters and make them a vibrant part of the universe on their own. And then, of course, you drop that they're leading up to their fateful their fateful orbital, their rocket launch. You set all that up just like you did in the way they set up Black Panther. It was so great. Dieter Bastian says, "Hey Rob, did you get Tango Shalom in the Seattle Film Festival as planned?" Honestly, Dieter, unfortunately, I think not. We've not heard back from the Seattle Film Festival, which is really disappointing to me, considering I grew up there as a full series pass holder, and I had a film there 10 years ago that I produced. But it's tough. The film festival market, it's a racket, and Tango Shalom is not exactly edgy indie fare. As we always said about when we were making Free Enterprise, we always told people that if we made our movie about cross-dressing crack addicts in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and that's not to take anything away from cross-dressers or crack addicts or Tulsa, Oklahoma, but we needed an indie edge, an indie vibe. Tango Shalom does not have that vibe. I think it's a beautiful movie with a lot of heart, but perhaps it's not exactly ready for the Seattle Film Festival. We haven't heard yet. You never know. But it's a bummer we didn't get in. But you keep going. There's other film festivals. And also the movie was not finished. We're now in the process of the color timing will be done on May 7th. And I talked to the sound designer today, and he said we're looking at an end of May finish. So that'll be good. We can actually finish the movie. So that would be a good thing. Richard Lee says, should phase 2 of the Godzilla Monsterverse build toward Godzilla versus Pacific Rim? Yes, yes, yes. It's legendary. I would love to see Godzilla fight Jaegers. I think there should be Jaegers in Godzilla King of the Monsters, but there aren't. But that is a great idea. I totally believe in that. Yes, absolutely. I'm in. Let's see. Victor Acosta says Fantastic Four went through a wormhole in the 60s. Everyone thought they died. They pop up in the current MCU with the powers they got from traveling through the wormhole. It could work. It could work. Too reminiscent of what happened to Steve Rogers, though. But it could work. Maybe. I don't know. I like that idea. But I think we need to interview. We have to introduce Reed and Sue Storm in another movie and get people to understand where they're going so they can anticipate it. Fenwar says, Rob, for the 150th episode, how about meet up with fans on a cruise ship and do it live? Well, it's funny, Fenwar. It's funny that you say that. For many people who know, I've got Lucky Tiger sponsoring me and I'm doing some work for them. I actually interviewed James Hills, who's a blogger, and I interviewed him today on a Norwegian cruise line ship via Skype that I'm doing a video for Lucky Tiger for. And it's interesting. I would love to have a meetup on a cruise ship. I don't know how we could do that. What I'd really like to do is go to Europe, and meet up with everyone. I know you're in New York, but I think that'd be great. Sean Reed says Godzilla versus Pacific Rim would be awesome. It truly would be, wouldn't it? I would love that. Joseph says, Rob, hottest character in Trek shows. For me, it's 7 of 9. Yeah, but you know what? I got to go back. I mean, the girl that really turned me on in Star Trek originally was Nichelle Nichols as Lieutenant Uhura, of course, and Mirror Mirror. But then all the guest stars, Ensign. There is an episode called Shore Leave from the first season, and I forget the name of the actress off the top of my head, but she played Ensign Tonya Barrows. I loved her. All of my images of femininity were ingrained in me by all of the women that I saw in Star Trek, and I'm a big fan of women from the 60s, the voluptuous girls with the big hips. And that were I like that. Those are my favorite things, and Star Trek was a big part of that. So there's so many hot girls on Star Trek and hot dudes too, but hot girls on Star Trek. I don't know if I could be pinned down to just one. But 7 of 9 definitely. Jerry Ryan is a very attractive woman, no doubt. Brad Brickley says Uhura and Yeoman Rand. Yes. Dax Jacobs says she looked like a supermodel. Sean M says I like girls from Star Trek too. Writer BL Ali says grrr. Marlena Moreau for the win. Swack Prop says Marlena Moreau for the win. I know Luna. Barbara Luna. She goes by Luna. She's lovely. I know her now. She's still beautiful. She's amazing. Let's see. There's so many people that you can blame Tom Rothman. Tekkaman Baldy says you can blame Tom Rothman and Firefly and Dark Angel being canceled. You can blame Tom Rothman for a lot of things, I think. Well, listen, you guys, I'm going to bring an end to this Friday night chat. It was great seeing all of you. I want to thank you for everybody who supports the channel in any way, shape, and form. Please subscribe and please like these chats if you enjoy them, and go to my companion website, Burnettwork.net. And if you have pictures you want to share, I am trying to create the Imagination Connoisseur Gallery. So it's an interactive place where you can put whatever it is. I've got some tattoos and some artwork, and whatever you want to share and send with the community, please do so. There is a form with which you can submit. I think it's on the top right corner of the website. Please use that. I'd love to see more of you. More, whatever you guys want to share, your action figure collection. People have sent me their physical media collections, really amazing stuff. And I'm going to be back here tomorrow at noon. And tomorrow night, if you're in town in LA, the Newport Beach Film Festival, my dear, dear friend Carrie David, her second documentary as a director is going to be playing at the film festival. And I want to get this information so I can tell her I pimped her movie. And it's going to be 20th annual new. It's the 20th annual Newport Beach Film Festival, which is pretty frightening to me because we were then at the very first. My Film Free Enterprise was at the very first Newport Beach Film Festival. So my friend Carrie David, who was the executive producer of Agent Cody Banks, and I, who was the co-producer, I'm the only single card credited producer on both Cody Banks movies. Remember, kids, you don't get what you deserve in Hollywood. You get what you negotiate. That's why even Madonna had to share her credit as a producer on Agent Cody Banks. This guy, I got my own credit. But her movie, her documentary, Breaking Their Silence, Women on the Front Line of the Poaching War. She shot this movie in Africa and in Vietnam, all over the world. She directed it. She wrote and directed this documentary. It's her second documentary after Bill Coor's The Will to Live. She's an amazing woman. She's one of my most favorite people in the whole world. We've been through hell and back together, and now she's directing. So good on her. But even if you don't see it at the Newport Beach Film Festival tomorrow night, look out for this movie. Bill Coor's The Will to Live just came out on Blu-ray. I pre-ordered it. I have not got it yet, but it's supposedly coming. So check that out. And also Breaking Their Silence. Check out this documentary. It's all about women who are on the front lines of the poaching war in Africa. Can't wait to see it. So anyway, thank you all for being here. I really appreciate all of you guys. I appreciate you, these members of the Post-Geek Singularity community. Please keep sending me your letters, your stories to Burnettwork.net. I want to hear, how'd you become a geek? What made you become an imagination connoisseur? Were your parents supportive? Were they not supportive? Tell me your stories. Tell me what you think, where you were, where you're going, what you hope for. What are your favorite franchises? What are your least favorite franchises? Tell me everything. You know, it's kind of like Kirsten Dunst in Interview with a Vampire. When she finally realized she became a vampire and she had a little taste of blood, and she like sits up and she says, I want more. Well, that's kind of what I want from you guys. I want more. Tell me everything. I want to know everything you have to say. And it's great that you're being here. I really appreciate your support. I will be back at noon tomorrow. If you get to see Endgame before then, tell me all about it. What do you think? What are your hopes? Do you guys have a Deadpool? Who do you think is going to die in the Battle of Winterfell? I'm just curious. Honestly, I think there's a reason why they knighted Brienne of Tarth last week. I don't think she's going to make it through the Battle of Winterfell. Just a thought. There's a lot of people whose stories are going to end, I think, this Sunday. And last week, I had people talk about, oh, that was a filler episode. Look, there's 6 episodes of this season. Last week was not a filler episode. It was so great. We saw so many characters come together for the first time. I loved it. It was so good. Really enjoying the first 2 episodes of Game of Thrones. I think this next one is going to be epic. What do you think? Anyways, those of you who are new subscribers who haven't been here before, thank you for subscribing. Thank you for being here. I really appreciate it. I can't believe how many subscribers I've received, or people. What do you call it? I guess new subscribers when they become subscribers. Do you receive them? Well, people who've become subscribers, if you're here, thank you for subscribing. It's been overwhelming, the support over the last 2 days. Thank you so very much. It's great that we live in a world. We got Thrones on. We got Orville ending last night. Gotham ending last night. We got Endgame blowing up all over the world. It's going to make $1 billion this weekend. It's great that we live in these times. There's amazing stuff happening, and I'm just glad I can share it all with you. So I bring this chat to an end. The 104th live Robservations chat. Thank you. I wouldn't be doing it without you. And I want to say, remember, every person you meet has a story to tell that you have yet to hear. All you have to do is listen. And with that, I bid you good evening. And tomorrow, I hope you have an even better day. Thanks for being here. I appreciate it.